Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Well, folks, we are minutes away from a historical moment in America. We will be hearing the verdict for Officer Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. Were his actions unreasonable? Does he deserve a conviction in a murder of second degree, murder in the third degree, or second-degree manslaughter? We'll see. They all come with various different convictions and sentencing timeframes. Sentencing timeframes could be anywhere from 10 years to 40 years, depending on how Derek Chauvin is convicted. We do have, let's see here. We've got, I do want to read just this is from the Wall Street Journal, just these two snippets here. It's worth just mentioning these two things, I believe. I believe it's worth mentioning here that we've got the prosecution. They sort of summarize their case with, this case is exactly what you thought when you saw it first. When you saw that video, you can believe your eyes, making that argument that Derek Chauvin should be convicted for the murder of George Floyd in obviously what has become a very, very popular phrase of us hearing, "I can't breathe," while Derek Chauvin was restraining or holding George Floyd to the floor with his knee. And then the defense attorney argues that George Floyd did not die because of the restraint that Derek Chauvin placed upon him, but instead died because of a heart condition and fentanyl and methamphetamines found in his system. And he had asked that jurors determine whether or not a reasonable officer would have done the same thing given the same circumstances. Now, personally, I'm not going to take a side on this, but I will say that I do believe that the speed at which this verdict was reached is indicative of probably a guilty verdict for Chauvin. So, as if I were Chauvin, which obviously I'm not, I want to make that very clear. I'm not Derek Chauvin. If I were Derek Chauvin, I would be like, "Oh crap, this is not good," because that was quick. They adjourned yesterday after closing arguments with a few hours. They had a few hours, probably like 6 hours to deliberate this morning. But you would expect a very long deliberation if this was going to be a not guilty. I would have expected multiple days. Probably a very divided jury where you had maybe 10 or 11 jurors who are like convict, and then one or two that are like, no, not seeing it, and potentially end up in a hung jury or something like that. So we'll see. We will see. There are arguments that there will be riots regardless of the outcome here, which I initially did not believe. I initially believed that if there was a guilty verdict, there would not be riots. But there have been arguments circulating that we should be careful anyway on the streets in Minneapolis, specifically because there could be celebrations that could turn into riots. So we'll see. We have no idea what this verdict is. We just have, an opinion, and that's just my thought. But anyway. We'll see what happens. Now, what we're going to do to cover this in an unbiased way is we're just going to split between Fox, CNN, and C-SPAN. C-SPAN will be airing this. They are not airing this right now, which I'm going to double check. I don't believe they're airing this right now, but they're generally the most neutral here.
So please be mindful.
Yeah, see, no, they're not airing it, but they're going to air it here. See the little live box above my head? So when the reading happens, we are going to watch a neutral station. Okay, but in the meantime, we'll jump around here and just hear with the commentary.
There was video of this from lots of people, not just, the official police video, but so many other sources from so many other angles, playing it again and again and again. Only heightens people's, condemnation of this event, whether fairly or not, to the former officer. I'm wondering how technology played into this and the damning nature of it.
Oh, they mean with like video and recording and stuff. Okay, fine. Okay, whatever. Let's listen to this side.
The attorney general did the right thing. He stepped in, he took over the case, and I think gave it really a grade A prosecution.
You know, immediately what comes to mind in this case is the reinstatement of one of these charges, that third-degree murder charge that was reinstated over the course of this trial.
Yeah.
And that harkens back to what happened to another former Minneapolis police officer, Mohammed Noor, who killed Justine Damon, who is an Australian woman living in Minneapolis who reported a sexual assault in the alley and was shot by this officer. Now, he was convicted, if you recall, on that particular charge. And so there was a whole lot of appellate process going on about whether that particular charge should apply to a police officer or anybody, frankly, who had one particular victim in mind per se. And so I suspect that over the course of this particular verdict, if third-degree murder is in fact one of the convictions, if any, then it is not going to end there. There'll still be an appellate battle.
Thanks, JC.
Minnesota did not finally weigh in on that issue.
It is complex what they have to decide. And I mean, I had to read.
I do strongly believe there's a high likelihood. I mean, look, guaranteed. If he's found guilty, it's an appeal, right? They're obviously going to appeal. I almost think in many states you have automatic appeals. I don't know with certainty though, but I do believe you have automatic appeals in many cases. The judge also indicated that Maxine Walters' comments in Congress that basically Derek Chauvin better be guilty could potentially set up grounds for creating an appeal, because that could sway jurors and lead to an unfair trial, essentially. That when you have Max, did I butcher her last name? Maxine Waters. I may have. I don't know if I accidentally put an L in there. I'm sorry if I did. Anyway, Maxine, she got a lot of backlash from Republicans from that for speaking out and suggesting, hey, we're going to. If you haven't heard it, I should look up the quote, because she said something in the effect of, "We're going to stand and let's see, Maxine Waters comments. Let's pull it up really quick about standing and fighting, essentially, which is very much what she got." Or what Donald Trump got nailed for in his January speech before the Capitol Hill riots, or that at least had a similar tone, right? So let's see here. Representative Maxine Waters on Saturday night called for protesters to stay on the street and, quote, get more confrontational if former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin is acquitted. We got to stay in the street and demand justice. I mean, there's a Democrat doing what essentially, it's so hard to say this in a neutral way, but what Trump was doing in January. And again, I'm not trying to take sides, Democrats, Republican. I'm just saying. So I'm bringing this comment up, not to politicize it. I'm bringing this comment up because the judge has indicated that comment from Maxine Waters could be cause for a full appeals process and potentially screwing up kind of the trial. So it's kind of interesting. Anyway, let's listen to this.
That's the maximum, and I don't think he's going to get the 40-year maximum sentence if he's convicted of second degree.
Okay.
No, I'm done. Thank you.
The argument, Leo, that the prosecutors made was believe your eyes, believe these videos, believe all of these angles from all of these folks who recorded this horrific event. You can believe your eyes. You can believe your gut. That was essentially their entire argument. What did you make of that?
Yes. So there's a good point here that, yes, the jury has been sequestered. Just so you know, usually sequestration, I think it is when basically you take the jury and you shove them in a hotel and you're like, no TV, no newspaper, nothing. But come on. All it takes, you can't prevent these people from talking to their family members. And at least I certainly don't believe jurors can be wiretapped even under whatever, when they're being sequestered. So I wouldn't be shocked if you have certain jury folks who talk to their family members and the family members are like, Maxine Waters, just didn't hear it from me. Come on, humans are humans. That crap's happening. The sequestration stuff, it all comes through. It all comes through. Kevin would go insane if he were sequestered. Probably. Probably. Yeah. Somebody says here, you've watched the entire trial live. You know, I've watched highlights. I'm going to be fair. I have not watched the entire thing. I have watched the closing arguments. I watched almost the entire actually, I'm pretty sure I watched all of the closing arguments. But yeah, anyway. If I was in jury duty, I would never want my identity known. God, no kidding. People post like on Instagram, going to jury duty. It's like, oh my gosh, you have no idea what you might be up against. Who knows what kind of case you're going to get. It's crazy. Woo! Oh man. All right, let's keep listening in. So far, I will mention as well, it looks like markets are relatively stable in the after hours here. Purple's actually up 4%. We've got Netflix down 11%. Roku and Fubo, whatever TV is falling. So both Roku and Fubo falling on that news, down 4.7, 2.5%. You actually got Peloton pulling with it a little bit, 1.3%, potentially because people see it as another subscription product. So not the Netflix earnings were not so great there. But anyway, we'll focus right now on the Chauvin trial. Focus on what's going on here. So let's tune into Fox for a moment, and then we'll jump on over.
And reaching a decision by now.
I don't consider it a quick verdict. Look, they started off with the presumption of innocence. The minute the prosecutors hit play, and they watched for 9 minutes and 29 seconds.
Override. Thank you, by the way, for this clarification. Jury was not sequestered until Monday morning. Maxine's comments, I'm pretty sure, were this weekend. Pretty sure those were weekend comments. Actually, I'm like 98% sure those were like either Sunday or Saturday comments. I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, no, the jury probably heard that then.
The rest that the defense did, some of it may be true. Yeah, there were other causes or whatever. But the substantial cause of death was the knee on his neck for that prolonged period of time. They knew it.
And that the prosecution was very effective at playing that for its full duration, to share its impact, to say nothing of other videos from other angles, from scores of other folks that kind of told this story.
What I got to ask this commenter, what do you mean? If Chauvin is convicted, I would be very scared for you, Mayor. What do you mean? Can you give us some more clarity there, Sam? I don't understand.
We've got the crime on video. Yeah, all that other stuff showed Floyd resisting. It showed him engaging in bizarre behavior. But ultimately, when he's in the care, custody, and control of Chauvin, and Chauvin would not remove his knee, that was a crime. And by the way, the prosecution touched on one point. I would have hammered it even more. He touched on ego. Ego. Chauvin's ego was not his amigo. And when they yelled, get off of his neck, get off of him, Chauvin's ego said, I'm not going anywhere. And I think that's what played a role in his actions.
I mean, that's an interesting argument here, that maybe it was Chauvin's demeanor and the way that he was on him, and maybe the way he looked or the way he presented himself, the way he was perceived by others. But that's an interesting line. His ego was not his amigo. I have to say, I have never heard that one before, okay? That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, man. All right, keep going here.
Defense lawyer, you've got to do everything you can with what you have. So you bring in all those things, an enlarged heart, narrow arteries, any other problems, the exhaust, his drug use, all of that's relevant. And good job, defense, for bringing that up. That said, the jurors said, I think, and again, we're waiting for the verdict and anything's possible. I think they said, okay, those might have been factors, but all we have to find is that the actions of Chauvin were a substantial cause. And that, I think, is what they decided.
Let me ask you about the defense lawyer, Eric Nelson, who, did not let up on criticizing Maxine Waters' comments on this, incendiary comments that even prompted the judge to agree to the extent that it might reverse or try to, mitigate, if not, eliminate this trial decision, to overturn it, so to speak. What did you think of that?
I think those are very fair comments for the defense lawyer to make. Look, I've been trying cases for 28 years, and we have a tough enough time relying upon the evidence and only the evidence, which is what the jurors are instructed to rely upon.
I don't know. You know, I want to respond to this comment here just briefly here while we wait for this verdict to come in. Let's be honest. What's the difference between those jurors hearing Maxine Waters say, you know, we got to stay in the streets and fight if this person is acquitted, before the trial or after the trial? They're either basically adults and they can be impartial or not. I'm gonna, and I don't want to disagree. Okay, like I always like to be very, very accommodating and everything. I just want to give a slightly different opinion. My reaction to is, remember, the jury is local. It's their town. If you've got somebody like Maxine Waters saying stay in the streets and fight if there's an acquittal, what if you're a local business person? What if bakery downtown? You know, what like, I don't know. I just think that it certainly could have more weight than no weight is the way that I look at it. I don't know. But I do not think that, quite frankly, I think she should not have made those comments. Not as a political figure. You know, after, fine. But then again, you even had Biden come out today. You know, Biden did not clearly indicate which way he's leaning. It's implied, but even Biden says he's praying for the right verdict. You know, that kind of precludes what an impartial jury system is supposed to function as. You know, all it takes is a call from the spouse going, yo, Biden said do the right thing. You know, I'm just saying, all of this stuff can have an impact. Oh, are we hitting it?
The focus becomes mitigation, why the sentence should be less.
No. I want to get to the C-SPAN version so we can be impartial on it. Okay. So we're going to pop back and forth. When it starts, I will be on C-SPAN because I don't want to have the Fox banner on my channel for any longer than I need to. And I don't want the CNN banner here any longer than I need to either, okay?
Attorney, don't wander too far yourself. I appreciate your expertise. Also want to bring Jonathan Turley into this. Jonathan,
it's on C-SPAN 3.
Now waiting this verdict of the trial of Derek Chauvin, of course, the ex-policeman charged in the killing of George Floyd. Now, these various charges from second-degree murder.
Here's a comment from Josh. Maxine almost threw the case. They definitely will win an appeal.
Wide discretion on actual sentencing. Where is he granted the most flexibility?
Right. This is actually right here. This is another very valid comment right here. Why even give them a reason to call for a mistrial? Like, why would you potentially jeopardize the court proceeding? Like, just keep your mouth shut for a few days and yap afterwards. I think a lot of us share that sentiment. You know why? Yeah. Anyway. Sorry, I'll keep going here.
Is effectively his life sentence. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I run an older prisoner project. People age faster in prison. The type of sentence you get on a murder charge is often an effective life sentence.
So Girth Brooks here says, you mean to tell me they believe he died of natural causes while conveniently being choked? I don't think that's the argument. I think really the argument is, did the officer follow what would have been reasonable department policy? And the defense made this case for there were some parts the defense made it. They made a decent, strong argument. I think one of the strongest arguments they made was when the officers were holding George Floyd, and they were kind of talking to each other like, hey, should we put his bags in the car? Should we whatever? They're like, no, we got to wait for EMS to arrive. And how there was almost this nonchalant kind of banter amongst each other about hey, we got to get this person medical care. And it's almost that, I think, was almost one of the strongest arguments they made. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying I think that's one of the strongest arguments they made. Whereas for Chauvin, the problem is, I think his demeanor, like the Fox person said, I think the Fox person here said a really good line. Honestly, one of the best lines I've heard in this case. His ego is not his amigo, because his demeanor while he was on Chauvin it didn't look like there was compassion. It didn't look like there was like, I'm just holding this guy to prevent him from running away. It looked bad. The perception was very, very, very bad. And then, of course, you've had use of force officers from both sides testify that that's appropriate force. So, then for the prosecution, they testify and say, no, that's excessive force. You've had doctors on both sides. It's gonna be insane. I think the outcome of this is I think insanity is the right way to say it. You know what? And this is a very good line too, S. Chen. He was on his neck while he was dead. Yeah. Can somebody tell me, what was it? It was like over 2 minutes, right? Over 2 minutes beyond George Floyd being dead. That's a problem. Like, I have to say, like, if I'm holding someone down, if you got a kid that's like flailing, like let's say Jack's freaking out and flailing, and I never hit my children, but I'll hold them and I'll kind of like pin him down sometimes. And I'm like, shoot, you got to stop throwing stuff. And I'll just like, I'll go like with the love bear attack, and I'll kind of like kiss him and hug him while he's like really upset or screaming or kind of having the tantrum or whatever. But while I'm holding him, I'm not keeping my eyes off of their state. I'm looking for a change in their demeanor. Like once Jack calms down, okay, now it's like, can I let you go? I think that was missing here, right? There was no, let me check on this person. It was very binary. It was like, we're waiting for EMS to come. That's it. I'm just going to sit here until EMS comes. And I think that potential lack of compassion is not going to bode well for Chauvin. So that's a good comment there. But really, I'm actually shocked that how much that's hitting me. That line was so good. His ego was not his amigo, and I don't usually say that about when we peek at Fox here or CNN, quite frankly, because both of them are problematic. But anyway, so let's listen to CNN for a moment. Hold on, I want to make sure we have the last channel available. If I can also. Yeah, okay. So because this is where we're going to watch the trial so that it's neutral. We'll watch it there, the verdict. But if I can ask you, and usually I don't do this with the exception of controversial videos, if I can ask you for maybe a like on the video, I usually don't do that. But generally the more controversial topics, a little more controversial with the dislikes and the likes. Anyway, Kevin, it wasn't. Yes, yeah, this is true. Yeah, this is very, very true. Maybe comparing it to a child is different. I'm not even making an argument. I'm just wondering, and maybe you can tell me more. Tell me more what you think, Rugby, or if there are any officers here who have maybe a different perspective. I'm curious. The main, like, at what point does it make sense to check in on the person that's being restrained, right? Like at some point. Things chillax, and I don't also know they had to have been equipped with tasers. Do we know that?
Manpower that's already supplemented by the National Guard, so they're anticipating that this could be trouble. The rarity here in Minneapolis is to go into a restaurant that is not boarded up. So the retail establishments are all bracing for it. And that being said, when you start talking with the business owners out here, none of them want to.
Here's a very good question. You know what? This is actually another very good question. I love all the perspectives y'all are giving. You know me, I don't take sides. I'll add commentary, but it's really just to foster discussion here. Sometimes play devil's advocate. I think this is a good question. If there was no crowd around, would they have been able to, or would they have been inclined to? I don't know which is the correct way to say that there, but would they have maybe paid more attention to his state rather than everybody else around shouting at them? That's a good point. It's a very good question. Very good question. It's almost like you wish you could put this into like some artificial intelligence machine and then just way different outcomes, right? Sad day when as a business owner, you don't feel like you can participate in either way due to your store getting destroyed. There's another comment here. Yeah, this is true too. People have been hit by tasers while on drugs, and the taser has no effect. This is very, very true. Jerry here says the crowd absolutely contributed. EMT was there, so could have let that person do their job. I think that's problematic. I think it's problematic to let a bystander who's a self-proclaimed EMT, and that's probably more problematic. I don't know that that would ever be part of a policy. That would be a good question, though. But I would question that. Chauvin being used as scapegoat, which is policing in general. They see us as enemies and combatants. It's wrong. So Chauvin, okay, Chauvin is being used as scapegoat so we can avoid the real issue, which is policing in general. They see us as enemies. Are you saying police see us as enemies? There's certainly, I would say there's certainly a large amount of jade that can come with the job of dealing with a lot of negativity. And I'm not trying to defend or make an argument for or against policing or what here, but I can tell you, I volunteered for the police department and I volunteered for the fire department. When you are around constant negativity, it can change you. And that's not saying there's any excuse, but nobody calls 911 to go, hey, thank you. It's very, very tough job. Many of us don't have the same adrenaline rush these policemen have every day, says someone here. You can tell who watched the footage and who watches the news. Okay, well, maybe I should read these comments before I just read them out loud. Policing is militarized. It shouldn't be that is policing has become very militarized. This is very true. Very true. And in some regards, I wonder if it's because we do have a lot of active shooters. There were probably, how do I want to say this? A lot of, I remember back in Florida, any of the SWAT officers, when they were on duty, they would carry their entire SWAT kit with them in the trunk of their car. So that way, if there was ever an active shooter, they had their SWAT kit. People who weren't SWAT officers or aren't SWAT officers here in California, they frequently carry in their car an AR-15 and a shotgun. I believe they do that to respond to active shooter situations. And in some sense, the argument might be police becoming militarized. But then on the flip side, how are cops with 9 mils or 45s even going to respond to somebody at a grocery store with an AR-15? Like, kind of got to have an AR-15 in the car too. Have a fair fight, So that's tough too. It's just very, very tough. Very, very, very tough. Militarized police became more popular after the war on drugs. Most TAC gear is used for drug warrants. Interesting points. I really appreciate all your comments, by the way. Very, very interesting comments here from both sides. Let's see here. There is a huge divide between races. It's not going to, I think one of the massive divides in our society right now is really the wealth gap. The wealth gap is a very big issue. I'm not here to kind of suggest solutions for the wealth gap. The wealth gap does not help. Keep this in mind. This is a statistic. The statistic is for every, what is it? Oh gosh, if you are in poverty, you are 2.5 times as likely to be a victim of violent crime if you are in poverty. So a direct linkage between poverty and violence. All right, we're going to go give a little bit of airtime here. Let's listen in for a moment to CNBC. CNN. Remember, we will be watching this live on C-SPAN, so we get a neutral feed.
She feels that the momentum that has grown from the movement over the course of a little under a year now is enough to propel people forward for generations to come.
Jolly Anderson has a good point here. What was Chauvin's intent? Did Chauvin intend to kill? Or if not, then it's probably manslaughter. Interesting argument as well.
Is still here. They are leading. They want to prosecute the police. And one person we spoke to actually earlier today said that's what they do here in Minneapolis. There was never a question. They wanted the police, I should say, to be treated how any other person would be treated if they had done the actions that Derek Chauvin had done. And so that's what people are feeling here. And when you think about this moment that we're in, this moment that has been coming for almost a year now, that has been building up, this is why it's important. This reminds you of the somberness and the reality of the situation, that a human life was lost at the hands of police, that a family still has a gaping hole. The only question is with this verdict, does this now become a spark point for even further to come?
Yeah, a lot of different opinions here in the comments. I appreciate the balance. Nobody here seems to be yelling or shouting at anyone, so I appreciate that. Sometimes comment sections can get pretty entertaining, but Nathan Espinoza, solution would be joining your programs with that discount code. Stop. That's funny. Now keep in mind, we are expecting this verdict anytime now within the next 9 minutes. 9 minutes to a verdict here. Let's go ahead and hop for a moment to Fox.
They deemed was not an excessive act. That we don't know. Once we get the verdict, we will. That didn't seem to resonate.
Well, what they did, Neil, which I think was hard, is that they relied they had some experts, but the majority of their defense relied on the policies and procedures that they tried to mince and say, he was following policy. This is what the booklet says. But when you have the people that essentially wrote the policy that are there testifying for the prosecution, that makes it very hard. Now, also, this doesn't matter as the trial, but outside, remember, Neil, this is one of the first time where you had police unions who normally stick with the blue line all across the country say, this is not us. The video was just too horrific, Neil. And so you saw, although there were some people that defended him, by and large, most police officers and most police officer unions said, no, this is not us. We condemn this because it was so egregious. So you're right. It was hard to get police experts on his side for this because it was a stain on the profession. And they tried to, it was their job as the defense to show how hard the profession was. And the prosecution matched it by saying, yes, we know it's hard. And that's why we think that it is noble. And what you did dishonored the profession. And that was a brilliant back and forth strategy.
This is I have to say, this individual here on Fox just made a very interesting, by the way, I am wearing my Don't Sue Me Bro shirt today. Don't sue me, bro. Okay, so don't sue me, bro. But and we will be bouncing between Fox and CNN here as balanced as possible. But while I have them muted, I'm just watching this. I do have the last button here. Okay, well, I do want to have the last button set to the neutral coverage, which is going to be right here on C-SPAN 3. So, but they're talking about the FDA in the top left corner. So we'll just leave it here for a moment. But yeah, look, I don't even know where I was going to go with it. Oh, this person's argument. I thought this person's argument was interesting here, talking about how police forces around the country have come out to speak against the use of force here, and what was seen on video. So I'm going to, let's see, here's a $5 comment here. What do we got here? Cops need to be able to do more training to be able to handle situations during stress. Cops should get more dwell time to be able to deal with stress. It's an interesting argument. A lot of cops work 3/12s, and even those that work 8-hour shifts, a lot of cops put in a lot of overtime hours. So I would expect a lot of cops run low on sleep. This is not, again, making any excuses. It's just an observation. I know that OT is a big source of not only income for folks, but it's also because a lot of departments are just they haven't hired enough officers. But training on de-escalation in general is something that is first of all, it's almost an art. It's very, very difficult to train de-escalation, I think. but I think it's money well spent generally. Here we've got Rosanna Dove. I've been a law enforcement officer for 27 years. Nothing good going to come from any verdicts. Sorry, this little picture here cuts me off, but oh well. Things are broken. We have 1 second to think and react, but this, in my opinion, was far wrong in every sense. He shouldn't have lost his life. Sad. Well, first of all, thank you for your 27 years of service, and the $20. But 27 years, that's incredible. I mean, I'd love to hear more from any Leos in the chat here. Perspectives are wonderful, but it's a good point about you have 1 second to think and react. The kind of bugs, one sort of maybe follow up to that is what do you think was going through Chauvin's mind in those 9 minutes? 9 minutes is a very long time, very long time. And many of those minutes, I think, were without substantial additional pushback. But I'm not sure. There was even commentary from the defense attorney that maybe Chauvin lifting his legs in what was deemed to be a partial brain seizure was maybe deemed to be a form of resistance by the officers, and that are these to be trained in this. In the Marines, we learned these same detaining tactics, though his behavior was very incorrect. Police have a lack of training in high-pressure training. High-pressure training. So then we got, here's a comment from Russell Thompson. I have not fact-checked this. Chauvin had 12 prior complaints against him. Lee Alvarez, I believe there was intent because I don't know if people remember, but Derek and George had problems before at the club they worked at together. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, one thing, and this was another complicating factor that the defense made a case about. The defense made an argument that, let's see here. Okay. The defense made an argument that, and this is something I've actually heard of in law enforcement as well. If you can talk, you can breathe. That's a common saying in law enforcement. Now, we've heard the prosecution have doctors on say that, well, no, I mean, when your face is in your ground and you're handcuffed and you're in this bizarre prone position, your breathing gets compressed and you get a lack of blood oxygen, which is bad and leads to the seizures that we saw and ultimately potentially death. But yeah, it is something that has been said frequently, and I've seen this many times in not only the course of this trial, but also in police forces 10 years ago when I volunteered for the police department. If you can breathe, or if you can talk, you can breathe is an argument. And so maybe that played a role in this sort of disaster, what happened here. I don't know. I'm interested in comments on that. Okay. He had 9 minutes. Yeah, 9 minutes. Quite a long time. That is true. All right, let's see here. My super chat explains this perspective very well. Where's your super chat? Did I miss your super chat? Mr. Meat Mop. I like the name. Here's another Leo. This is Rosanna again. Thank you for the follow-up. Mr. Deep Mop, I think I may have missed your comment there. If you don't mind, maybe can you copy and paste what you wrote? And I'm going to look for your name. And I'll look for your comment again here in the names. Innocent until proven guilty, we see here. The officers, all of them, should have been checking in on the perp while waiting for EMT. That we hear. That's a common sentiment that we hear too. It's hey, why not check in? Yo, buddy, you don't have to take, or like one of them can get up and check. But I don't know. Maybe there weren't enough of them. I don't know. It's a very, very complicated situation. One thing I'd like to mention is the atmosphere that was surrounding the situation was hostile and dangerous. Not untrue as well. Okay, let's see what other commentary we have here. To play devil's advocate is impossible for me in this situation. Too many people have died at the hands of police to allow this to continue. Well, I mean, having a discussion about it is very important. I hope you don't disagree with me asking or presenting arguments and having a discussion. So let's see. Has anyone tried to hold someone down without putting weight on them? Maybe you can just hold them down. I get the sarcasm you have here, but let's listen in for a moment here. Let's just see what's going on. Hold on.
We can anticipate.
I do have some thoughts, Wolf, and just so you know, I've been in communication with Ben Crump, the family attorney, and I asked him, I said, what can I say right now? Are you optimistic? Are you cautious? Who is with you? What's the mood? Where are you? And he said, Pholonis and I are in the courthouse. He said, the family has faith that Derek Chauvin will be found criminally liable for killing George Floyd. And again, that's from Ben Crump, the family attorney. And as has been reported earlier, that Pholonis Floyd, the brother of George Floyd, is going to be in the courtroom when the verdict is read, and he is there now with the family attorney and the family. I would imagine it together, and they are cautiously optimistic that considering the time that it took the jury to deliberate, Wolf, and come up with a verdict that is going to be at least in their favor. Not exactly sure how they're going to rule on all the charges, but there you go. That is the latest from the family and the attorney, Wolf Blitzer.
Yeah, we're going to be checking back with them all the time. Sarah Seidner, we just managed to reconnect with you, Sarah. First of all, tell us where you are and tell us what you're seeing.
All right, so we are right across the street from the Hennepin County Government Center where the court is. We know that George Floyd's brother, Pholonis Floyd, is inside of the court. We know that we have our reporter inside of the court as well, Josh Campbell. He is there to listen to the jury read the verdict. We are awaiting. We know that Derek Chauvin is inside the court as well. Chauvin went in about 8 minutes past 3 local time, so 4:08 your time. And so everyone is waiting for the jury to come in, and everyone is waiting to hear from the foreperson as to what their decision is. I'll give you an
idea. Chauvin coming in at 4:08. That's in 6 minutes. Jolly Anderson has an interesting argument here. There, at the same time as we call for defunding the police, there is also a call for more training for police or potentially higher pay for police. This is true. I mean, that's an interesting argument that, like, do you have more training or defunding, right? You can't really have more training with defunding. And if you have more training, well then, yeah, I mean, it does the opposite. So yeah, that's an interesting argument. Thank you for paying $5 to shout out, smash the like button. I appreciate that. These political events are very, very difficult to cover. Very difficult to cover, but I do my best. So $10 here says either cops need to be paid at least double and trained to be social workers and drug counselors, or we need to hire more social workers and drug counselors to ride along with cops. It'd be interesting. Do you imagine social workers riding along with cops? I think the problem with that is police get put into dangerous situations. When there's a domestic violence altercation, it's not like, okay, social worker, you go in there first. It's the cops go in first, you know? So I think probably it has to be the same person, you know, if that's going to be the argument there. So I'm going to take a peek here again. We are potentially within 6 minutes now of verdict time. So we are going to watch this live on C-SPAN, but I am jumping around between coverage here just to hear some other commentary, see kind of what's going on the scene as well.
That the jury is brought back into the courtroom. Obviously, Derek Chauvin, the defendant, will be there. And is there much ceremony, or is it just give me the verdict, I'll read the verdict, and then that's it?
What happens is the judge will ask the foreman of the jury, has the jury reached a verdict? At that point, the foreperson will stand.
Hold on. I think the judge is coming in. Yep. Here we go. All right, we're getting close. Woo! Oh, this is where you get anxious. I also have the Bloomberg terminal up to see what the Wall Street folks say about the outcome. So we will see what
All rise for the jury.
Here we go. Oh, gosh, the tension. Oh.
All right, please be seated. Members of the jury, I understand you have a verdict.
Oh.
Members of the jury, I will now read the verdicts as they will appear in the permanent records of the 4th Judicial District.
Woo!
State of Minnesota, County of Hennepin, District Court, 4th Judicial District. State of Minnesota Plaintiff versus Derek Michael Chauvin, Defendant. Verdict, Count 1. Court file number 27, CR 20-12646. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to Count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:44 p.m. Signed, juror foreperson, juror number 19. In caption, verdict count 2. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Signed by jury foreperson, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 3. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Jury foreperson 019. Members of the jury, I'm now going to ask you individually if these are your true and correct verdicts. Please respond yes or no. Juror number 2, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 9, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 19, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 27, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 44, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 52, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 55, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 79, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 85, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 89, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 91, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 92, are these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Are these your verdicts, so say you one, so say you all?
Yes.
Members of the jury, I find that the verdicts as read reflect the will of the jury and will be filed accordingly. I have to thank you on behalf of the people of the state of Minnesota for not only jury service, but heavy-duty jury service. What I'm going to ask you to do now is to follow the deputy back into your usual room, and I will join you in a few minutes to answer questions and to advise you further. So, all rise for the jury.
It's over. Fully guilty. Second-degree unintentional murder, guilty. Third-degree murder, guilty. Second-degree manslaughter, guilty. Let's see what I'm going to see what the terminal is.
All right, you seated?
Here.
With the guilty verdicts returned, we're going to have Blakely. You may file a written argument as to Blakely factors within 1 week. The court will issue findings on the Blakely factors, the factual findings, 1 week after that. We'll order a PSI immediately, returnable in 4 weeks. And we will also have a briefing on, after you get the PSI, 6 weeks from now, and then 8 weeks from now, we will have sentencing. We'll get you the exact dates.
8 weeks from now, sentencing. Let's go ahead and jump for a moment just to listen to commentary. Let's pop over.
And I'm into custody, pending sentencing.
Bail is revoked, bond is discharged, and the defendant is remanded to the custody of the Hennepin County Sheriff. Anything further?
Get arrested here.
Thank you.
Here it is.
We're adjourned.
So, counsel, Gates.
And there you have it. Guilty on all charges. Derek Chauvin now remanded to the custody of the sheriff there in Hennepin County. You've seen some visible reaction there from people that were there to observe, getting the news and reacting to that. Very little visible reaction from Derek Chauvin or his attorney. Also difficult with the mask to tell for sure. But this is the verdict after 45 witnesses and 3 weeks of testimony. The judge thanking the jury for not just their service, but heavy-duty service, as he put it. Next, what happens is the jury goes back into the deliberation room where the judge will meet with them, answer questions, and then they are free to go. Derek Chauvin is not. Now he is in custody. Let's go back to Judge Pirro, who was giving us a little bit of the behind the scenes.
We're going to flip for a second.
Is guilty. Painfully earned justice.
He's just reading the title. I want to hear the other commentary.
Well, clearly the verdict is supported by the facts. This case was extremely unusual. I've tried many murder cases, and I sat as a judge on murder cases. It is rare that you even get a picture of the victim in a murder case, other than maybe an autopsy photo. But here, we had a living, breathing person that the jury was able to relate to every day, day after day, watching the trauma of what he went through, begging for air, begging to breathe. This was an emotional as well as an intellectual decision. And when I say that, make no mistake, the facts are solid on this verdict. This verdict will be upheld on appeal. But right now, what people need to understand is that the American justice system works. It works, that people believe in Lady Justice, that if we give it a chance, it can work. And for all those people who want to burn down streets, just let the court do its job. And
thank you, Russell, for fact-checking the 12 complaints against Chauvin from prior. Thanks. That is something I put up for a fact check. So shout out. Thank you for checking that. Wow. Okay. Well, there we have it, folks. I'll probably go ahead and I don't know, maybe we'll watch for a few more minutes here just to see how things are reacting. So far, it seems like this is overall, there's substantial calm. Let's listen in a little bit more here. With the exception of Dogecoin. Dogecoin is down to just under 31 cents now.
There was a big cheer that went up from the crowd. As far as talking to people here in the crowd, one said happy as H-E-double-L. Another one told me they're going to celebrate tonight. They're not going to bust up the town. In fact, he said, if anybody I see them looting, I'll whoop their A-double-S. So that's what's going on outside here with the crowd outside of the courthouse. That being said, with the crowd that's here, one, when you look at the size of this crowd, don't be deceived entirely. You do have a big crowd, but their numbers are supplemented dramatically by the number of cameras that are here. The media from all over the world is assembled here to watch the reaction to this trial. As far as the reaction, we did just see a big section of this crowd peel off and head for the street with all the appearances that they're still going to march today, marching, of course, with different motivations. As far as the gear in that crowd, we've seen very little of what we've come to know with the Antifa crowd, the black hoods, the backpacks, a little bit of the painters' respirators that are supposed to ward off the tear gas. Some of the signs look like they could be used as those makeshift shields. For the most part, you have people who wanted to come out here, hear the verdict, and react. So you have a crowd that is satisfied with the verdict, 3 up, 3 down. Some of them didn't think they were going to get that. They thought as best, in terms of best from their perspective, that they were going to get was 2 out of 3. So you have 3 guilty verdicts, a very happy crowd. And so far, what I hear from random members of the crowd, they don't intend to bust up the town tonight. Back to you.
Mike Tobin, thank you. Juan Williams.
Okay. Well, I think there we have it. Oh, look at that. We've already gotten demonetized. Thank you, YouTube. Wow, really demonetized videos, content not suitable for most advertisers. Really? Is this not suitable for most? Reading a verdict? Are you kidding me, YouTube? Anyway, I'm going to be jumping over and we're going to be covering Doge. So thank you, YouTube, for sucking on the monetize, whatever. If you enjoy my coverage, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out the programs linked down below, folks. I'm jumping over to a Dogecoin live stream because we are red candle sticking hard right now, folks. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.